What's up, everybody? Welcome back to IGN Gamescoop, a very special E3 2013 edition of Gamescoop. I'm your host, Damon Hatfield. I'm joined now by Colin Moriarty, Keza McDonald,
hello,
and Sam Claiborne.
Scoop?
Yes.
Scoop!
And we're going to talk about Nintendo now. Nintendo's conference this year was obviously very different from Sony and Microsoft, two companies that are introducing new consoles this year. Nintendo is not introducing a new console.
They got that out of the way.
They did that last year.
Talk about games now.
Yeah, exactly. Because you thought it would have been ridiculous. Those were your words used, for Nintendo to have a conference and try to stand up next to Sony and Microsoft this year.
I think it would have looked just ridiculous. It would have looked sad. You know, I think that Nintendo's the decision to forego a press conference this year was an admission, like, you know, and not like a quiet admission, like a completely straightforward admission, like we're not in this fight, like we can't compete on this level. Mm-hmm. But then the other side of that admission is that they're just not interested in competing on that level anymore. And I think that's been obvious ever since the Wii U launched, actually. But even since it was announced, they're not really there in the same space as Sony and Microsoft is. So they've taken a completely different, unconventional approach to E3.
Sure, not interested in competing, but interested in selling consoles, right?
One would hope.
Which they're not really doing right now. So do you think their approach this year will help them sell consoles?
I think so. What they do have is a giant booth filled with amazing games.
Their booth
and
is awesome.
They have a crazy good booth. There's like, you can sit in a Mario Kart, you can sit in a Donkey Kong barrel. Like every single game has this crazy big installation. Like I don't even see other booths that are even competing on that level. And usually Nintendo's a little subdued booth-wise. And I gotta add, like they had a conference that was pre-recorded essentially, and then had a real conference, which you and I went to.
Yeah,
we didn't even know it was going to happen.
It was like a double-pronged thing.
Yeah, they trotted out Shigeru Miyamoto and Eiji Aonuma and very famous Nintendo people, and then they said, these are the developers of our upcoming games. Talk to them and play the games with them. And we all just followed Shigeru Miyamoto to Pikmin, and he just talked about Pikmin with us.
It was absolutely fan service.
It just wasn't. Yeah, it wasn't broadcasted.
So you talk about fan service. I think their direct conference was the type of presentation you should have if you have your install base already. You know, these are the games you want, but they don't have that install base yet. So I didn't see the game that's going to convince people to go out there and buy a Wii U.
Not in 2013.
Well, I think Smash Brothers is that game.
But that's 2014.
Yeah, it's like a year out.
Yeah. Of course.
At that time, we'll like.
And if not that, then I will say I didn't think this would be the case, but Mario Kart might sell some systems.
2014 also.
Yeah, I know. I'm just saying. They still have games. I'm saying, and that game looks really, really, really good. Like it's just beautiful. The graphics are awesome, and it just looks like a great Mario Kart. Much better than Mario Kart. What was the last one?
Wii 7, I guess.
No, it was 7 on DS was good though, but Mario Kart Wii was not so good.
And Colin, you've been spending time with PlayStation 4.
Yeah,
this week.
I've been basically only at Sony's booth so far, so I haven't played any of the Nintendo stuff on the floor yet. I hope to do that.
But I just wonder, the next generation starts this fall.
Yeah.
I'm trying to figure out where Nintendo fits in.
I think it's just not there. It's not there for the next generation, but that's not a bad thing. I think that's really crucial to emphasize, is that Nintendo not being, positioning itself, up there with Sony and Nintendo. That's not a bad thing, because I think that I think it's going to be a second console for a lot of gamers, the Wii U.
It is, but it is a bad thing in my opinion, just because you have to fight. You know what I mean? Like, they are admitting that they can't compete with Sony and Microsoft, and so they won't. And I think this looks weak. I mean, the games just seem derivative. It's clear that they're having problems developing for an HD console, which is a problem that Microsoft and Sony had and conquered 7-8 years ago. And they're just behind the eight ball. And I don't understand this argument that Smash Brothers or Mario Kart or these kinds of games are going to sell this console, because they didn't sell Gamecubes and they didn't sell N64s.
Wii was quite a lot of Gamecubes and N64s.
Well, I think they're the only thing that sold GameCube.
GameCube sold 24 million units.
Right.
N64s around 30 million units.
But that was the game that sold.
And that was also 10 years ago, there was a much lower. I mean, you can't really. Yeah, I mean, the GameCube was a distant third place, right? But that was a very profitable console for Nintendo.
Sure, I guess what I'm saying is it's the way you look at it. If you're looking at the Wii U as this thing where you buy it for literally 4 or 5 games over a 5-year period, then you're going to be probably happy with it. But without third-party support, this company that we grew up with and loved, and how much I loved my NES and SNES and even N64, and I love the GameCube. It's just that's not the same company anymore. And I don't want to play another Mario Kart game. I don't want to play another Zelda game even. I want something like new and different. I'm not saying the other companies aren't doing something that's the same. I mean, we're getting another Killzone, we're getting another Infamous, we're getting another Dead Rising, but there is new stuff there. The Order 1886 is like a bold new IP on a next-gen console. Rise is a new IP. Sunset Overdrive is a new IP. Like, where are their new ideas? The old ideas that we were promised on Wii U, like Pikmin 3, is still not out. When your big game in the fall is Wind Waker, which came to GameCube in 2003, there's a problem, and people can admit it or they can't. But Nintendo is in trouble. The Wii U is in trouble. And if they want to make money on this console, they're going to need to have some new ideas. They're going to need to have third-party support.
I think Nintendo's always had new ideas. It just hides them within established franchises. Like Mario Galaxy is one of the most extraordinarily innovative games ever made. Sure. It's got this freewheeling creativity. It's amazing. A lot of Wii games didn't get as much credit as they perhaps deserve for trying new stuff. Like, I mean, motion control in Zelda Skyward Sword that existed in no other game except kind of Red Steel. Like, it tried a lot of new stuff. It just tries new stuff within an established template that keeps it maybe looking safer than the games actually are. And I think the Wii U has that problem in that it looks a lot safer than it actually is. There's really interesting stuff going on within those games, and even within Mario 3D World, which I think it's fair to say is very like 3D Land. There's still quite a lot of new stuff going on in there. It's returned to 4-player.
Let me blow your mind here. I think Nintendo played it really safe and also did crazy stuff with the games that sold their last two systems, and one of them was Brain Age, which the DS did not exist until Brain Age started selling DS systems. Now, where did that come from, right? And Nintendogs too. Completely left field, kind of safey, like general audience games. Now, also Wii Sports sold the Wii, so
Wii Fit.
Yeah, and Wii Fit, exactly. Like those are the opposite of, as you were saying, are the opposite of Kart and Smash Brothers. And yes, they sold the systems. It's just, I don't think any of us here care about those games. So, like, if we want to talk about like Nintendo's strategy for being successful, like they have a strategy. They're trying to sell Wii Fit again, and they're trying to do Nintendo Land and do general audience games.
Yeah, but
we just don't care about them, and they're not working this time.
But to me, it's almost disingenuous, like their approach of like we're making a new 3D Mario game, but they're really not making a new 3D Mario game. This isn't the Mario game that you wanted. Mario Galaxy is a 10. Mario Galaxy, I agree, is one of the great games of all time. I adore that game. And Mario 64 obviously is this iconic, influential game. This is not. This is basically a rehash of a 3DS game.
It has cats.
No, I saw it. I didn't.
It's completely, very much not like the 3DS game, and that's what I thought when I saw it as well. But when you actually get your hands on that game, it doesn't feel like the 3DS game.
But is it the 3D Mario?
It doesn't feel like Galaxy.
Is it the 3D Mario that when everyone's like, we're getting a 3D Mario?
Yeah, everybody's
that was not.
Everybody's disappointed with this Mario game, and I think the problem is that they're shoehorning in four-player support, right? And it's hard to do that in a 3D game, so they had to like flatten it, make it simple. They just want 4 people to play the game. That's such a high, like it's such a pressure on all Nintendo games now to get multiplayer in them, and everybody feels that.
It's been sold as a family console, you know.
Yeah, sure.
And the thing is, we've already got a 4-player Mario in New Super Mario Brothers U. You know, I think it is disappointing to me that it's not another Galaxy, but I've got to say, I think it was unfair of me to judge Mario 3D World just looking at it and going, it looks like 3D Land. Because when you do get your hands on it, it feels very different. And the kind of scenarios that it had in there, and it was only a short demo, obviously, but it was different. And I think the dynamic of 4 players I thought when they put 4 players into New Super Mario Brothers, I thought, oh, that's just, money for old rope. And then I played it, and it completely transforms the game. So I think there is potential there for it to...
Transforms it into an unplayable mess.
Depending on who you're playing.
I think the thing...
It's a different game already.
The thing that shocked me, though, about what Nintendo's approach is what Retro is doing. And, like, Retro is arguably their best studio, right? And, like, they made, the Metroid Prime games. These are not massive selling games, but they're very popular, very fine games. The original Metroid Prime especially is an amazing game. And I could have sworn it's like they're making an open world Metroid game. Maybe they're making an open world Zelda game, like a Skyrim.
What we all wanted, right?
Yeah, it's like, no, we're making a Donkey Kong game.
Yeah, apparently they can make them fast too, because this is the 3rd one in 2 years.
It's just detached from reality that that's what you use your best talent to make. That's like Sony saying, Naughty Dog, you're gonna go back and make a platformer now.
Make Crash Bandicoot.
Yeah, like Crash or Jack, right? Like they're a different studio now, right? Like Retro is a different studio now. These guys have a pedigree that is exceptional. Maybe that the Wii Donkey Kong game was kind of a one-off for them to try something different. But you want these guys to make an iconic AAA game that's going to sell
They're
consoles.
making Halo 5.
I really hope
a bunch of people from Retro left, and they're working on the Halo franchise, and it shows up in Halo 4 a lot. And that new Halo game has some very important people that worked on Metroid Prime on it. So
I just think
that's
that
disappointing, but
I think
it's also awesome.
They need to reestablish like what's important to them when they think about growing up on Nintendo and these these great games, you still have to introduce something that's new and interesting, not in ideas, but in terms of IP
That's
and
it.
stories.
That's why the GameCube was so great, right? It may not have sold so much, but that was probably Nintendo's most creatively fertile period.
Well, I
think,
adored
since,
GameCube.
SNES. And the GameCube's new IPs, things like Pikmin and Chibi Robo, just random stuff that came up. That's the kind of thing that
Robo.
I love Chibi Robo.
Yeah.
It's great, but that's the kind of thing you want from Nintendo when you're a Nintendo fan. Like, I mean, of course you want Mario and Zelda, but really that's for, I would say, like, there's a whole generation of people who are 10, 15, 20 years younger than us who haven't played these games before and who are loving them for the first time now, which is great. But what you want from people like us who've already played these games and already love these games, and we'll probably buy them forever. I reckon I'll probably buy Zelda forever. I still want that creative Nintendo. I want to see that Nintendo that tries new things now and then. And Nintendo's structure has always been set up with the EAD teams to foster that kind of creativity. We're just not seeing it quite yet. I think in Nintendo Land's mini games, that's where we saw that. And we've not seen it anywhere else in Wii U yet.
They took a chance on that.
So we talked about how there's not really anything coming this year that we think is going to get those consoles off shelves. But one thing they could do this year is a price drop.
I think that's essential. It's now, it's
to.
$50 less expensive than a PS4.
Right?
Yeah, like what are they going to do? I mean, that's the thing. It's just they're in a weird position now. Like I think 3DS is going to be fine. It's picking up a little bit of steam. It's destroying the Vita. But like this console is going to be going up against things that are truly next gen, because I'm sorry, the Wii U is not a next gen console, and it's no more clear now that we've played PlayStation 4 and Xbox One that this thing is not a next gen.
I think
console.
Nintendo acknowledges that, and
Well,
I think that might be why there's not that much coming in 2013. Maybe Nintendo's like, well, everyone's going to be busy with someone else at the end of 2013.
Yeah,
maybe we'll just hold off a little bit.
It could be, but you have to fight, and this also creates problems in terms of third-party support and stuff. And
I think that's gone.
They're dropping. I mean, even something like Deus Ex was announced as like, we're no longer making this. Like, why would you when no one's going to buy it anyway? They'll buy it on the HD Twins, and it's easy to port between these two consoles. And Xbox One and PS4 share very similar architecture. So even though they have a surprising amount of exclusives, especially Xbox One, they're really picking up their pace here with exclusives. These games can travel between those consoles, and they cannot travel to Wii U.
I think this is a bespoke console. If you're a third-party developer, you want to develop for Wii U, you're looking at making an entire bespoke game for that system. I mean, I think the third-party Wii U reel in Nintendo Direct was sad. It was sad viewing. But
One thing Wii U has going for it: no DRM. You can sell your used games to whoever you want, give them away.
It's true.
I think that it's strange to me that Nintendo didn't make a bigger deal out of that. I think what Nintendo did, they came out and what Reggie
Well, they
came out
released their
for-
system when all the systems had that same
true.
thing going for them.
But Reggie came out
I don't think they anticipated.
at the software showcase.
Yeah.
When Reggie came out for like 2 minutes and just did a thing, he was just like, it's all about the games, play the games, who cares about the magic boxes? Which is easy to say when your own magic box isn't selling.
No, I think a lot of people care about the magic box.
Yeah, but that's it, the magic boxes are important, and I can't tell whether Nintendo is completely out of touch with what everybody else is doing, like genuinely doesn't understand, or whether it doesn't care. And I think it's probably a little bit of both. It's a repositioning that's intentional, but I think also maybe there's just an element of just not really quite engaging with what
I
modern
think they're
gaming
confident
is,
they can
hardcore
keep
space.
selling software. Like if their box fails, they can sell their software. They will have so much money forever to do
That's
that.
it, yeah.
They're a
most
very
solvent
conservative
company in
company. They can fail a few systems, and they're not failing the 3DS. It's totally fine. I agree with them to an extent. I don't really care if they're selling boxes or what their box does. Like all I care about is games. If Nintendo fails, then hopefully they'll put out games on a different system. I'm fine with that. I just want to play their games.
I think that would be a long time away, though.
Before we go, real quick, what does Nintendo do next E3? Do they do a Nintendo Direct again? Do they do?
If they do it again, they
Forego
need to
conference?
figure out how people can watch it, because this year is an absolute disaster.
Yeah, you couldn't. That
watch
stream
it
was
when it was
skipping.
on, yeah.
I wouldn't be at all surprised if Nintendo just didn't do E3. I think.
Well, but the booth was so big and involved this year. They
They
love
might do their own
E3.
thing. They might do their own side event like Space
Yeah,
World.
so they did
Space
that back
World,
in
yeah, that'd be cool.
2000.
But Space World harkens back to a Nintendo that, at least in my opinion, I knew and I
It's
loved.
a more arrogant Nintendo.
Like a Nintendo that was on top, and Nintendo had new and good ideas. And you even mentioned the GameCube. Within the first year of GameCube, we were playing Luigi's Mansion, we were playing Eternal Darkness, we were playing games that were different.
That was a
those
tough
were
year,
wonderful.
though. I mean, we look back at it, and hindsight is a little bit rosy. I mean, the GameCube had a terrible launch, and
Wave
the
race.
PS2 killed it for
Wave
6
race.
years.
Yeah, but the GameCube did have a bad launch and a bad first year, but it did have third-party support, lots of it, which
It had BMX Triple X.
And the GameCube is outselling the Wii U in terms of time spent on market now. So that means the Wii U is in really bad shape. I mean, there are charts online that track month by month, like where the numbers are, and the GameCube is outselling the Wii U. You know?
Yeah, I mean, the GameCube did have Prince of Persia, Beautiful Joe, like stuff like that started coming out.
Yeah,
But
the
man,
Captain
we had
America
this same
5.
conversation about third parties and the Nintendo.
And also,
GameCube.
yeah,
I mean,
people have been
it
saying-
never had good third party
That's
support.
it. And people have been saying for 15 years now, oh, Nintendo's going to fail and just start making
And then
games
Just
for other
Dance
people.
comes out. I mean, like, it's hard for us to predict this stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is, but I still think a competitive Nintendo is good for the industry, and a Nintendo that does something different is very good for the industry, because you don't want a third company that
Yeah.
does the exact same thing, but they're not being different in a good way. They're being different in a complacent and lazy way. And, the Nintendo that innovated when we were younger is not the Nintendo now. The Nintendo now is really just a different company, in my opinion, that really is detached from reality and detached from what, its older fans want that would stick with it. Give me a reason to buy a Wii U and I'll buy it. But you're not giving me a reason, and Smash Brothers is not that reason. I want an innovative new Zelda game. I want a new IP, God forbid.
Here's hoping it comes in the next year and next E3. That would be
Sure,
nice.
here's hoping. Thanks a lot, guys. This
Yeah,
is
thank you.
definitely one of the most fascinating E3s I've ever covered, if not the most. But there's still one day left. That means there's one more Gamecube left. We'll be wrapping up the entire show for you tomorrow, so stay tuned.
Scoop.